Do you ever feel like your whole life is disappearing into a screen? Whether it's a TV or your phone, there is no denying that most people spend a ton of time distracted. A lot of it is accidental too. I'll sit down for a 5-minute break, check my phone, and look up realizing that 30 minutes have passed. Sometimes more. Despite all these slip-ups, I still consider myself to be pretty good at time management. Every morning I make a list of to-dos, I prioritize it, and then throughout the day I use Pomodoros to stay on track and make sure that I'm accomplishing deep work. I also make sure to give myself a lot of breaks so that I don't burn out and exhaust myself. And recently, I've been practicing slow living, and it has changed my life. In this video, I want to go over 3 steps that I've been taking to live a more intentionally slow life that you can try too. Step number 1, write down nonsense. For a long time, I struggled with the idea of having my own thoughts. I consider myself to be a pretty smart, thoughtful, creative person, but every time I would sit down to exercise those traits, I'd find myself staring at a blank screen, unable to write. And whenever I did end up putting words down, they would typically just be a regurgitated version of whatever I had just been consuming. I lacked originality. Or at least I lacked easy access to my own originality. I knew that my thoughts were in there, I just didn't know how to get to them. So I started journaling. I learned about this practice called morning pages from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it seemed like a great idea to see if I could cut through the noise and get to my own thoughts and feelings, to see if I could even articulate the vague, ambiguous ideas that were bumping around inside my brain. And it worked. If you want to try this practice for yourself, it is so easy to get started. Every morning, just grab a pen and paper and write. The goal is to fill up 3 pages with stream of consciousness thoughts, and if you can't think of anything to write, simply write, "I can't think of anything to write," until all the pages are full. This daily practice will help you dig through the clutter in your mind and get to the things that matter. Step number 2, simplify. Simplifying is one of those things that sounds like it should be super easy, but is actually really hard to do. It requires a ton of upfront effort, and unfortunately that initial hurdle is one that most people never get past. But simplifying is one of the key steps to living a more intentional life. When you think about what's most important in life, what comes to mind? Is it family, money, friends, TikTok? To really answer this question, you have to take a step back and not only think about what's important to you, but also think about whether or not your current lifestyle is set up to promote the things that you say matter most. What helped me with this was minimalism. I spent a lot of time and energy decluttering my physical space, but in doing so, I was able to find out what was really important to me. And it turns out it isn't stuff, it's time. If you want to try minimalism for yourself but don't know where to start, I highly recommend the book Goodbye Things by Fumio Sasaki. But regardless of how you do it, when you simplify your life, you make more room for whatever it is that matters most to you. Step number 3. Say thanks. I used to think mindfulness was kind of woo-woo, and I still don't spend a ton of time meditating every day, but I do make an effort to be aware of what I'm doing at any given time. Too often we get caught up with the past or the future, and we end up missing out on the experiences that are happening right now. Mindfulness helps us appreciate the little things that we might otherwise overlook. And speaking of appreciating the little things, one way to live a more intentional life is to practice gratitude. When we express gratitude, we become more aware of the present moment and start to focus on the positive things in our lives. This helps us to slow down and appreciate the things that we already have instead of constantly wanting more. So there you have it, 3 ways to slow down and live a better, more intentional life. And if you like this video and want to learn more about big topics like intentional living and financial independence, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I will catch you on the next one.